All right, let's talk Alex Leatherwood, why don't we? The, guy who's probably most well known for being a first-round pick that probably shouldn't have been drafted in the first round, and then really struggling and flaming out very quickly. The consensus big board had him as the 55th rated prospect, which I should mention isn't the worst area you could be a prospect in, right? 55th, I mean, that's still a second-round pick. That's still a valuable prospect, and, a lot of times those guys, I think you kind of expect them to at least be solid contributors right away. Maybe not like a great starter, but I think, my mindset has always kind of been, in the first round, depending on when you pick, you expect to get somewhere from a star to an actively good player. In the second round, you expect to get just a starting caliber player, and then, everywhere else, you're just hoping to get contributors. That's kind of how I viewed it. So, 55th, that's still someone you expect to be like a starter, but it certainly has not worked out that way so far for Alex Leatherwood. In 2021, his rookie year with the Raiders, he actually had a couple good games to start, but then was just a mess. It was weird where he kind of started off okay, but really got worse as the season went along. And for, a 55.5 grade is terrible. A 31.3 pass blocking grade is atrociously bad. So that's very much not good. And then he ended up going to the Bears, which I think a lot of people felt like, okay, well, this is at least interesting. What can he do with Chicago? Is there a way that he can, maybe make something happen with a change of scenery? But he barely got into the lineup. He had monoculosis at a certain point during the season, so only had around 30 snaps, which he looked fine in. But again, it was just it was very little. He was barely able to play. So for a guy that again got just straight up waived after being in the league for just 1 year after being a first round pick, definitely it's not looking great so far. If we look at his college analytics kind of make you wonder what the Raiders saw in him a little bit. Again, an 80.7 grade, that's a good college player, but definitely not someone you draft. Usually not someone you draft, too high in the second round. Again, the 55th placement kind of feels about right. But it should be mentioned, there still is some value in that kind of guy. Again, had a pretty solid run block grade of 85.4. The pass blocking wasn't very good, but I don't know, maybe he could be a guard. That's definitely something you could think about. And actually, I would probably try him out at guard at this point. To me, that's how I would view him. But let's go back and let's watch a little bit of his college tape and sort of see, okay, what did the Raiders like about him? What did people like about him? Because again, people are going to say Raiders are dumb. That's all there is to it. But still, for the 55th overall pick, it's been disappointing. If that's when he was selected, it would have been a disappointing start. And one thing that was definitely true about Leatherwood was he really struggled with technique. And he's kind of a classic example. You see this all the time with offensive linemen, where people kind of view technique as a fixable trait. They don't really care about that as much as they care about other things. Like on display going up against Azeez Ojulari, actually, and watch what happens. So right when this play begins, Ojulari is going to get his right arm kind of on that left arm for Alex Leatherwood. I always talk about how important, if you're a left tackle, that left arm is. He gets the hand placement he wants, and really is going to kind of cause it to force Leatherwood to not be able to get the hand placement he wants. Watch as he knocks that left arm to the side to where he can get past him, and then Mac Jones eventually gets rid of the football, but still, that was a win. And these are the kind of things you definitely saw from Alex Leatherwood pretty consistently in college. Was like he was sort of this, a guy who definitely you could see the potential in, but just couldn't consistently get things down and was very raw as a prospect. If you look at his, this is WalterFootball.com, their weaknesses for Alex Leatherwood, which, by the way, great database for if you want to hear what, but they were talking about any player coming out of the draft in recent memory. They have, pretty extensive strengths and weaknesses for pretty much every player, that at least every, like top 50 pick, top 100 pick or so. So to have one for Leatherwood. And what they were saying before he was drafted, these were his weaknesses. Kind of a couple notable ones, like the needs to improve hand placement, lacks heavy hands. Those are the main things that I want to talk about because, again, it's one of those classic examples of every offensive line coach believes that they can coach up these offensive linemen. That, give me the talented guy, I'll figure out how to, improve their hands. That's a fixable thing. Well, sometimes, but these are adults, and for the most part, you are what you are, and that's typically how it works. Guys that don't perform that well in college, only are like solid college players, very rarely become great NFL players, especially at the offensive line position. It's different position to position. Quarterbacks, yeah. Quarterback, throw it out the window. Just, potential, I can see it. But, like, for offensive linemen, like, you need guys who have production, or it's very rare they will succeed. Going over to the tape, again, he barely played in Chicago, got some time at right tackle, and probably, shouldn't be playing tackle in general. But again, okay, right tackle, so right arm now, that's the important one. And again, it's worth mentioning, hey, you draft someone at left tackle, now he's having to play right tackle. That could be tough. Okay, totally fair, totally reasonable. Right when his play begins, you're going to see Hassan Reddick, who, again, tough guy to go up against, right? But for Leatherwood, you can't really get a great angle right now, but he just doesn't have that right arm anywhere near where he wants it to be. Again, Reddick is holding it with his left arm, and for Leatherwood, there's just not really a way he can grab on. As you see, it's going to create pressure, and, Justin Fields does good stuff to avoid it because he's Justin Fields, but still, that is an issue from Leatherwood, and again, he just still doesn't have that technique totally down, which to me kind of makes me feel like, okay, well, why don't we just put him in a position where that's not as important? Put him in as a guard, which obviously hands still matter, but you can get away with it a little bit more not having the perfect hand placement, although obviously you can still give up the quick pressures, but there's less space for guys to work with, which could potentially help you out, I think. And again, he's a solid run blocker. The run blocking hasn't been a massive issue. In fact, he's been a slightly above average run blocker, PFF grade wise, since he's been in the NFL. He's just been atrocious pass blocking. So yeah, those are kind of my main thoughts about Leatherwood as a whole, is that, okay, listen, I don't see Leatherwood and say this is the player that has no value and should not be in the NFL. I really don't see that. Although I gotta be honest, I certainly don't sit here and say, oh, this is a great player who's going to succeed in the NFL constantly. He's someone you gotta make sure that you, definitely keep close. Obviously, there's some issues and there's some things he has to work on. And again, maybe it's possible that these technical issues are things you could actually fix. I don't know. That doesn't seem crazy to me that like some really good offensive line coach could figure this stuff out. Now, I don't know if they have that in Chicago. Maybe they do. I just don't know. And again, maybe if he gets a full season under his belt, because he still only had that 1 year with the Raiders, maybe if he gets another year under his belt, maybe he can figure it out. I don't know what value I would give up to get Leatherwood. Probably nothing. I probably wouldn't give up anything to get him. But if he were to be a free agent, I wouldn't hate signing him. Simply because, and again, it would depend on where I'm at, but simply because I do think that there is some potential. And for the Bears, who I do think are still rebuilding at this point, I know, there's some optimism about maybe they can take the next step this year and be a good team, maybe, but I still think we're in the rebuilding process right now, right? I don't really see them contending for a championship or anything like that this year, just 1 year removed from being the worst team in football. Why not put Leatherwood in at guard, which seems to be the plan, have him play guard, and see what you can get, and you know what, if he struggles, well then, okay, fine, he struggles, and I'm not even saying you have to start the year with him out there, I don't think that you need to do that, but you could potentially put him in there and just say, okay, let's see what happens. If he struggles, well then, okay, a failed experiment, it is what it is. They already have a couple guards that I think they probably feel fine with, so I don't know if they need to go up and, put him there, and that's kind of the thing. He's probably going to start the year as a backup, but who knows what he can do from here on out. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.